Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I thought we'd do some crafting again. So we are going to make this card. This is the die we're using. It's from Alinacutle. I will link it below. I'm just going to jump straight in to crafting because I don't really know how else to do these kind of videos. So we'll see how we go. So here I'm just cutting out roughly the shape of this die so I can save paper. For absolutely ages, I used to cut my paper to fit my die cutting machine. And then I realized I just need to cut around the die and I can save loads of paper by doing that because it warps your paper when you run the whole thing through the Big Shot. So I just thought actually, if you just do the die, it saves a lot of problems. So this is the beautiful die redeem and I wanted to do a shaker card. So I cut out the die and as you can see here, I'm measuring it. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, right, this is how big my acetate's going to be. And so I write down my measurements. And then in a minute, you're going to see that I clock how am I going to put some foam tape behind this. Because I didn't think about that. I was like, oh, this will make a brilliant shaker card. But totally forgot about how it's really intricate. The whole edge has got holes in it and design in it. So how on earth do you put foam tape under it without the foam tape being seen? I could use a piece of foam and die cut the foam, like fun foam, but I find that it warps a lot in my machine, especially with intricate bigger dies. It just shifts the whole entire size of it and it stretches it in a really funny way. So here I'm cutting my acetate to go behind it, but in a minute you'll see that I twig, actually that's not going to work because I can't put my foam behind that. So at this point I realize that I need to come up with a solution because I really want to make a shaker card with this. So I get out some rectangular dies. These are rectangular dies from AliExpress. I'll see if I can find the link below for you, but they are just double stitched rectangles. So I get some out and I try and work out what would work best basically to be able to make a border so that I can put some foam under it to make my shaker. So here I just play around with my sizes of rectangles to try and work out which one's going to fit best and how I can get a border. So obviously these dies, I don't think they don't cut the inside. So in order to get a frame, you've got to cut two together. Otherwise you just get one big sheet and that's not going to work for a shaker card because then you're not going to be able to see through it. It'll just create a background rather than a frame. So I've worked out which ones I'm going to use, and then a great method to make this work is to tape them together. So in a moment you'll see me use my, this is just a low tack masking tape, there we go, and so just taping them together so I can get a border, and then I'm going to use that border to frame my die that I cut out. So here's my little border, and then I get a nice little smaller one that I can use on another card at some point, but that's how it normally cuts. But if you cut both, then you get this frame. So I'm just trying to piece it together. This is kind of how I work. This whole process took me about 45 minutes, I think it was. So I've really cut this video down to make it 11 minutes long to show you in a lot faster of a speed. But it wouldn't have taken me so long if I had picked a die that would already sort of have the edging I need to be able to put foam behind it. But never mind, it means that I can learn to use my dies better and make more use of them. So here I'm cutting a new piece of acetate. You need the acetate in this case to be the full size of your frame because we're going to put it all together. And so sometimes if you do a shaker card and you just cut a bit out the middle, like I did a birthday card and I used the numbers 50, 5 and 0, and so I just cut those numbers out and I put acetate just behind the 5 and the 0 because I didn't need to obviously cover the whole card. But in this case you do, because there isn't really anywhere else for you to hide any of the foam, so you're going to cover the whole thing because your edge is where the foam's going to be. I don't think I'm making any sense, so I apologize. I hope just watching me craft will help you to understand, and that then you can work out how to do it yourself as well. So I've put some sticky tape down, and remember when you're doing these kind of cards to make sure you're really rubbing or burnishing your tape down, because you want to make sure that the acetate really sticks well to the back of it. This tape that I'm using is a 1/4 of an inch double-sided sticky adhesive tape, and you can see it's quite sticky. I like to use my pokey tool just to kind of lift up the edge of the tape so that I can then peel it back a bit easier. It's much easier than trying to do it with your fingernail. But then often I end up with my fingers sticking to it a bit as well. But never mind. So here I am making sure that acetate is firmly down. I cut the acetate just a little bit smaller than the frame itself, so that I can make sure that if acetate goes a little bit wonky, that it'll still fit the frame and not poke out the sides. And here I've decided to use some mixed medium, matte medium. So I've taken some Ranger matte medium and plunked it in this bottle, as my favorite YouTuber Natasha Foote usually does. And so here I'm painstakingly putting some adhesive all around all these little intricate holes. For me, it's worth it because I know it's going to stick down really nicely. It's going to stay. It's not going to peel up. And I'm never quite sure with acetate how well things will stick because it's such a smooth surface. But I know with this matte medium it will stick. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting all the main areas covered with just a light bit of glue. And it took me a little while longer because it's quite a thick glue, and that's quite a fine tip bottle. So here I'm just sticking it on the front, and then I leave that block on there for, I think I went and got like a coffee or something and then came back to it. It doesn't need very long, but I just wanted to make sure it was stuck down. And then again, I'm just making sure I'm rubbing it gently to make sure that glue spreads around if it's still a little bit wet and sticks proper. And then I'm just measuring it, because now I need to think about a bit of card to go in the back. And so that's my bit of card that I'm going to stick on the back, just as my bit to hold all of my shaker pieces. And I will stamp that bit. That's where I'm going to put a sentiment on. But this is my roll of double-sided foam tape. This is a 1/4 of an inch wide, or 5 millimeters. And Alina is now selling 5mm tape, so she's sent it my next design team package. So I will have a go and I'll tell you how it works and if it's as good and what it's like. But she's now got it in her shop, and it should be rolls like this, which is really awesome. I prefer rolls over squares and things because it's such a faff to cut them and to cut them down to size, whereas I like these rolls because you can just do big long strips of it. And it's nice and thin, so it works perfect for shaker cards. And I bought quite a few rolls a few years back when I was doing card classes, so I had enough for everyone in my class. So I got quite a bit to use up. So I thought I'd do a bunch of shaker cards, which is why you've seen 2 tutorials on shaker cards at the moment. But I love this foam tape, so I'm hoping Alina's is just as good. Mine is starting to get a little bit old, so it's not as sticky. So I think what I'm going to have to start doing is probably using a bit of extra glue on top of that to make sure it stays stuck down. Now with your sequin mix, I recommend you have a look through your stash, see what you like, and then look at what colors work before you go pouring them in. Because when you get to this point, you can't really easily turn it over and have a look at it and see what colors work well together. So have a look first and see what you like. I'm using this stamp set from Stampin' Up. I really like the sentiment, and I like that it was long and just kind of seemed like it should fit in my window. So I kind of went with a bit of a wish and luck, I guess, because I didn't actually check it would fit before I did it. And that's what often happens, and then sometimes I end up with a big mess on my hands, but never mind. So I stick it down and then I do the big reveal just to see if it worked. Yay! It's in the center! But now, if you take a look at my card, this is when I realize, oh no, look at my bows. I glued it on upside down. So that was a bit of a whoopsie. I think I actually pointed out in a minute, but I didn't really realize at first that I'd stuck the die down upside down and that there was a way to stick it on. So pay attention to your die when you adhere it. This is me just sticking down. I'm using up my tape. You could use glue. Glue might work a bit better, like a liquid glue, so that you can get it right in the center of your card. This isn't a standard size card. I just cut this card to be, I think, 1/8 of an inch bigger than my front. There we go. There's my upside down bows. So here's another set of bows from Alina. I got these in my last design team package. I requested them from her. and they're really nice, cheap sort of dies, bow dies. So I decided that I would try and cover it up with some new bows. So here's two that I've got. This is the largest one in the set, and all I do is I stick it down with a glue dot and adhere it right over top of those bows that are clearly upside down. So in the end it worked out really nice, because actually these bows look really sweet on it, and it kind of makes it pop a bit more, whereas I don't think I would have thought to put those on if I hadn't put it on upside down. So now I've covered it up, you can't tell the difference. And then I'm just pulling out a whole bunch of these enamel dots from AliExpress and trying to find a color I really like. In the end, I end up settling for some old Stampin' Up! Ones, because I like the blue, matching the blue on the bows. So these are Stampin' Up! Ones, which cost me a small fortune, and then the ones from AliExpress were loads cheaper. So I'm using up my Stampin' Up! Ones, but I'm really pleased with the AliExpress ones because they're just the same as the Stampin' Up! Ones. So that's been quite a bargain. If I can remember, I will try and link those as well. But here's my finished card. So in total, it took me about 45 minutes, but I shortened it to 11 minutes for you. So thank you for joining me, and have a great day.